You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. It's your host, Brian Fullerton, here hanging out with you guys. And guys, I am excited. I am always excited, but today I'm doubly excited because we have not only the man, the myth, the legend, Paul Jameson here with us for the next 20, 30 minutes. We're going to get a little update about what's going on with Paul, but also a prelude to what is going on with the summer road tour and the excitement that is going to ensue on the Green Industry podcast. So we are joined here live right now with our friend, Paul Jameson. What's going on, brother?
What's up, Brian?
I'm doing good, man. I'm in between breaks of me talking. I am getting some Essentia Water, which is the unofficial podcast sponsor for the Green Industry podcast, if I'm not mistaken. So it's just living the dream over here, man. How's things going with you?
It's awesome. So in real time, as we're having this conversation, I just finished packing my suitcases, my gear, and starting to load up the car. Mr. Producer texts me, like, don't forget to take your books. So I got a big pile of books and ready to hit the highway bright and early tomorrow morning. So I'm pumped up.
Man, we caught you a good time. I knew you were about to head out the door. I was texting you just a little while ago, and I said, hey, when does your summer tour start? And you said this week. And I said, well, it would be a travesty if we don't at least get you on the show really quick to just give everybody the lay of the land for the excitement, which is your summer road tour, which, if I'm not mistaken, is now an annual tradition. And, you've been rocking the Green Industry podcast for a little while here. And so it's cool to just see what you guys got going on. And, let's not take it for granted that maybe some folks haven't been able to listen to your guys' show just yet. I would say most of our audience probably has heard of you, but if for those of them that are just jumping on and maybe they're new to our podcast or podcasting in general, can you just give them a quick little minute or two update about who you are, your background, your story, and then what's the Green Industry podcast?
Absolutely. So I started my first lawn care business in 2011. I was truly a chuck in the truck, a Rick's mowing. I didn't even have a truck. I had a 1997 Honda Accord. So I learned everything the hard way. There was no YouTube. There was no Stanley Genetic. There was no Greg Chisholm. I think that kind of started like 2013 when that really took off. Mm-hmm. So I was just making the common mistakes that a lot of rookies make. And then eventually I started watching YouTube and learning from Stanley Genetic, and Johnny Moe was probably my favorite, and Naylor Taliaferro and with B&B Lawn Care. And I got into the YouTube ecosystem, and I learned a lot by watching YouTube videos, building my business. Well, simultaneously, while I was doing that, I also was a radio DJ in Atlanta, and I worked alongside Mr. Producer, who now, everyone who listens to your show know him. So I just kicked around the idea, and I was like, I should start a lawn care podcast, and he helped me get started. And here we are, 450 episodes later, and we're going on our second annual summer tour where we actually go out to lawn care and landscape professionals' shops. We'll be at Mitchell Gordy's new shop, and we'll be at Naylor Taliaferro's house, his lakefront property. I go to these guys' places, and you really actually pioneered this last year because you're like, come on over, I'll have some, lawn bros over. And next thing you know, I think I did like 15 episodes in one day from your garage. And so we're kind of doing the same thing. Naylor invited 9 Virginia lawn bros over on Saturday. Mitchell Gordy's having the North Carolina lawn bros to his brand new shop. So we're kind of doing what you pioneered, where we did a bunch of podcasting in one day at your house, and some other guys are kind of taking the baton with that in their neck of the woods. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But I do a daily podcast where we talk about, I know y'all talk about the birds and the bees, man. I was listening to you and Liz last show, taking notes.
We're giving all the tips away.
I was taking notes on that one, man. You guys didn't listen to that episode. It's all dirty to me. Where's this going, man? Laundry. dishes. I was like, okay, that's what you said.
Oh, we are a couple nuggets short of a Happy Meal over here. We keep it light, we keep it fun. It's unfiltered, right? You never know what you're gonna get sometimes when we hit the red shiny record button, right, Paul? So it's we're trying to give away practical advice too, something that you can learn today and apply tomorrow. We always say. So we're trying to improve your bottom line, and we're also trying to. I'm not even gonna go anywhere and make any analogies because I'm gonna put my foot in my mouth. So we'll just keep it PG. We'll keep it Disney. But any which way. So well, in long story short, for all of you guys listening in, like Paul was saying, he's got a tremendous podcast, a Green Industry podcast, over 450 episodes. It's a daily listen. And frankly, it's something that I get in my truck first thing in the morning. Even as somebody who has a podcast that goes out 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast, I enjoy listening to Paul's show. Every morning, 7:30, 8 o'clock, I'm leaving the house. It's the first thing I play. I think, Paul, you called it just this last week, a lot of Lawn Bros morning show. And I kind of feel the same way. It gets me that daily pump, that daily positive attitude that we talk about, and it just helps kind of set the tone for the day. And it doesn't matter if I show up to the trailer and I got a flat tire, my guys are late, or everything's going good. No matter what, it's just we're feeling good. We're excited because I already got that first shot of positivity in the arm first thing in the morning listening to your podcast. And you guys have a world-class podcast. How many downloads a month and how many countries have you guys permeated to by now?
Yes, it's steady, 45, 50,000 downloads a month. And then I don't know the countries, but the Australia, New Zealand, Canada, United States, all across Europe, those are, there's a healthy audience from all of those places. So it's really cool. And I know we share the same producer, the best producer in the biz, but it really is I don't do the production. Some of y'all think I do, but Mr. Producer does all that, and he really makes it sound excellent. So I'm very thankful to have him on board and glad that he's been a big help to you as well.
Amen. Well, like I said, we're trying to catch up to you guys. We're riding the jet stream behind you. We're in the wake, and just a couple months ago, Paul, we actually had our first download in our first international country, which actually was Alabama. So we were super grateful for that. I think Jason Creel might have stumbled onto our podcast. I'm not entirely sure how. I sent him a meme the other day. Shout out to Jason Creel if he listens to the show. And the meme said an Alabama man was arrested for attacking his neighbor with a shovel after his neighbor allegedly told him that Busch Light tastes like water. And there's a photo of a guy with his prison cell picture, and Jason Creel said, well, that's why I always figure he has a good chance to be successful in Alabama. The level of competition is a little lower down there. So I said low barrier to entry, right? So any which way, we're having fun just like you guys are. Well, here's what we want to do on the show. We're going to keep it light. We're going to keep it short and sweet. We're not going to keep it the Joel Osteen short and sweet where it's an hour, Paul, right? We'll do the actually 20, 30-minute episode. I always joke on our show. But I wanted to just give you guys the lay of the land that A, Paul exists. B, if you haven't listened to recently, maybe jump back on board. And then C, stay tuned because the shows that Paul's going to be doing over the next 2-3 weeks are the live and in-person episodes with, the microphones are both there. It's not like a phone call-in interview, which are still really good, but the live shows are always just so much fun, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about the schedule, get the lineup, see who's coming in, who's Paul's going to be interviewing over the next couple of weeks. So I'm really looking forward to it. So as always, we always take this quick minute to transition. So A, I can get a sip of water, and B, we can hear from today's show sponsors. Today's show is not sponsored by Essentia Water, which I do have in my hand, and I am going to get a drink of. But today's show sponsor is somebody that Mr. Producer is going to play here in just a hot second. So if you guys want to, stay tuned. We're going to hear a little bit more from Paul Jameson with the Green Industry Podcast, and then we're going to come right on back.
Ballard Innovative Products is a full line of gear for the lawn and landscape professional. From mower gear, safety gear, trailer racks, equipment securement, equipment servicing tools, aerators, mower blades, X-blades, aluminum baggers, and much more to make you efficient, effective, safe, and profitable in the field. Check out Ballard-Inc.com to help dominate and elevate your business. Ballard Innovative Products. With over 20 years of selling accessories and 30 years in the business, we're sure that we've got something you can't live without. We appreciate the support and look forward to serving you this season. Stay safe and keep grinding, friends. And don't forget to use Brian's 10 to save 10% at Ballard-Inc.com.
Lawns, lessons, and live. This is the Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast. Now, your host, Brian Fullerton.
All right, well, let's jump right back into it. Paul, we're headed back to you, and you are headed to Virginia. So give us the lay of the land, man. What can we expect over the next couple of weeks from the Green Industry Podcast and the episodes that you're going to be doing over there in the Virginia, greater Virginia area?
Yeah, so it's all going to start. I live right outside Atlanta, Georgia, and tomorrow morning I'm driving to Tony Rudolph. He's in Lake Oconee, Georgia.
Yeah,
and
shout out to Tony.
Yeah, Tony's Lawn Care. He's got a YouTube channel. He's a really, really solid guy. And him and his wife, and now he's got their kids. They usually come to GIE every year. And he's a solo guy. So he just works all by himself every single day and really puts in a lot of work for a really, really nice area. Lake Oconee is called Reynolds Plantation. It's a bunch of really rich folks that live out there on the lake. And so Tony just makes his rounds. And I'm looking forward to hearing his story. And then from there, we'll go to $1 million business in Columbia, South Carolina, Trifecta Landscaping. Alex Kirby, he has multiple crews, and they also serve on a lake in Columbia, South Carolina. From there, we're going to go up to Raleigh, Durham, to a fellow named Kyle Perkins and interview his business. And then from there, I'm going to park it at the lakefront property at Naylor's. It's an inside joke because it's a pond. I made a mistake and I was like, oh, nice pond, Naylor. And he gives me the desk there. He's like, it's a lake. And I was like, oh, sorry.
I remember you guys doing that podcast live on his lake, on his back patio of his lakefront property, and see, that's why it's fun listening to you guys do podcasts together in person, because the bickering, right? It's the bickering, which is fun. We're all lawn bros, we're all in it together, so we rib and rap each other a little bit, and but Paul, you're not kidding. Naylor was he was highly offended that you said that it was a crick.
Well, Stacy Flanagan, also known as Steph the lawn surgeon, he was there. He, I could tell with his nonverbal communications, he was pond. He thought it was a pond too. I mean, you literally could throw a tennis ball across the thing.
Sure.
They like a lakefront property.
Well,
that's.
Yeah, I was going to say, we paid a premium for the lot. So it's like somebody who gets their degree and they're a doctor, like you have to say Dr. Naylor, right? Or whoever, Dr. So-and-so. Yeah. It's like, he paid like an extra 2 G's for that lot because it had like somebody left the water hose on. So now it's a lakefront property in the backyard. so now it's lakefront for the next 40 years. And when he goes to sell it, he's going to say, this is lakefront, man. And, somebody's going to go walk in the backyard and say, where's the lake? And he said, well, it's low tide, you know what I mean? And give it a couple months, the high tide will come back, you know what I'm saying? But we poke fun at Naylor. Naylor's got the LCR Media podcast. He's another friend of the show. Naylor's got thick skin, and he's another lawn bro. And Naylor's got a great podcast and great YouTube channel. So any which way. But, well, let me ask you this. How did you decide to do these summer tours and take the show on the road? Because a lot of the episodes people call in, and we actually use like the same mixer, podcast mixer, if you will, to do our podcast. And Paul actually helped me launch my podcast. I mean, everything I know about podcasting, I've honestly learned from Paul, and hence why the podcast is actually successful. Go figure. So Paul's a great teacher and a great student of his own right. But where did you take the inspiration to take the show on the road? Because not everybody logistically can do that. Does it just better interviews or better quality, or what was your thoughts behind that?
Yeah, there's definitely a story behind that, and I definitely want to give credit to Mr. Producer because when COVID hit, there was a lot of people not traveling and things of that nature, and he was like, well, long story short, they canceled a whole bunch of events. So they canceled, quite a few events that I was planning on going to podcast from. So he kind of mentioned to me one day, well, it'd be really cool if you took the show on the road, if you went to people's places. And so I was on a call with Echo. I was actually interviewing Ken Osberg from the marketing team at Echo, and he was talking about their new products, stuff like that. And at that point, it wasn't even like a serious idea. It was more like, I might go hit the highway and go out and interview some of the lawn bros. And he's like, well, yeah, if you do that, let us know so we can get behind you and support that. And I like there's a cartoon, you know, when the light bulb goes off.
Right.
And like, well, yeah, of course I will. You know, yeah, you know, here's the deal. And they're like, cool, man, we'll sponsor your tour. And so big shout outs to Echo. They were the very, very first sponsor to let me go out there. And then, you know, I traveled the East Coast, eventually concluded in Tennessee, or I concluded Tennessee, but right before that I was at Michigan, and we just had a grand old time. And I was like, I love doing this. I want to do this all the time. And so then we did a fall tour. Then we did a Florida tour. Now we're on our second annual summer tour. And just like everyone listening is an entrepreneur or a small business owner, my imagination is just like, I'm imagining going to Fenway Park one day and doing interviews there at the baseball stadium that's got a really landscaping. I'm imagining going to Augusta National Golf Club where they play the Masters and doing interviews there. So now I'm just like, it started with the first annual tour. This tour is going to be off the charts. And then I'm already thinking like bigger and better for next year. And so we definitely want to keep it going. And as long as y'all keep listening, and it's definitely, I think Joe Rogan, you know, every single episode he does is in person. Oprah Winfrey, you know, when she had her TV show that was the number one, you know, viewed interview style TV shows in person. And so you know how it is. I mean, you got a baby on the way. Life's crazy. It's not like you can just get up and go with the wife and kids. Well, I'm single right now. So I'm kind of like maximizing this tight window of my life where I can actually,
Amen.
You know, highway, and I don't have the responsibilities that maybe I won't always get to live life out on the highway. But for now, I'm doing it, I'm loving it, and I can tell my guests love it too. So it's a lot of fun. And then after, Naylor's going to have 9 guys come over, and we're going to grill out on the lake, and he's going to set up his. Well, he didn't get a roadcast. That's another inside joke. He got a. You know, he's got to be different. Got to be different. Whatever he's got, he's going to set up his podcasting board on one side of the patio. I'm going to have my podcasting board on the other side of the patio, and then we're just going to kind of rotate the guys. So it'll be like a content creation, kind of like a mini hype house.
Yeah.
Lake style. And then after that, I'm going to go down. Our friend Mitchell Gordy, him and Hannah, they just built, or they're building a house.
Yeah.
But he just awesome shop. I mean, I've been watching him on YouTube build it from scratch. So I'm just like kind of want to do something similar one day. But anyway, we're going to go into his shop and set up shop and do some podcasting there with the Long Bros in North Carolina. Lamont Hairston and Casey Turner and Pete from GCI and some of these guys. It's going to be a good time.
That's awesome, man. Well, I've been watching Mitchell's YouTube channel, like you were just saying, because of the house and the pole barn. He's, 6 months, a year, I don't know, whatever, just ahead of me with what I want to build and what we're going to be doing. Actually, 2 days from now, we sit down with the actual designer to actually start building and planning the pole barn versus just being a thought and let's do this, let's get on the schedule. We're actually building it this Tuesday. We're meeting up at a Panera. We're going to be there for hour, 2-3 hours, and then he's going to price it out for us. Someone can put a deposit down. At this point, believe it or not, it's going to be already spring of 2022 when we can get on the books because they're already booked. Wow. Yeah, it's crazy. It doesn't even matter if you have the money to build it, which is a whole nother topic because wood's up, 300 to 500%, steel's up 300%. It's crazy. Of 75 grand pole barns, 100 grand or plus. And Mitchell's got a beautiful building. I couldn't only imagine numbers. I've DM'd him back and forth. He actually shared some numbers with me just because I'm curious, right? But even which way, we want to build the house come fall, and then we were going to build the pole barn come fall. But I'm talking to our local area rep. We're going to go with Morton's pole barn building, and the guy said, "Yeah, we're already booked out through January and February." And if you actually go to their website, it says literally we're booked out through the end of the year. We're already taking reservations for next year's summer, which is crazy. So you want to talk about 100 grand, pole barns, which is just, the going rate. And then something that's already booked out, 6-12 months. I mean, it's nice when your landscaping jobs are booked out 8 weeks, but to be booked out 8 months for pole barns at 100 grand a pop, that's actually pretty stout. I'm impressed. Hey, by the way, I was just thinking when you were talking, one of the inspirations for you for the podcast was Field of Dreams. The good old if you build it, they will come. Well, you got that half right, and then COVID happened. So instead of them coming to you, now you have to go to them. So
right. Well, it was if you build it, they will listen. That's
yes.
what I heard. If you build it, so they are listening, and I am building. Go ahead.
Well, I was just laughing the line, if you build, they will come. I'm like, well, they'll come if you go to them because the listeners will come. But anyway, I was just having fun with that one.
I got you.
But that's awesome. In the summer tour that you came over last year, it just like knowing that I like do a podcast and I've been on people's podcasts and. Man, you guys listening in, I know you guys hear it all the time that you guys are forever grateful and thankful. We get the ratings and the reviews. And if you haven't left one for my show or Paul's show, like, please do. They sincerely that's the most tangible thing you could do to help us grow the show, give us feedback on the show. Like that's what helps make the show get promoted through the algorithm and iTunes and Google Play, right? Well, long story short, knowing that Paul was running around all over the country for his, first year and a half doing the podcast, I said, Paul, like, I hate running around. I don't like running around personally. I know that you have to put up the whole podcast, the board, the mixers, and then if you're recording it, you have to set up all the cameras, right? It just it's something that we do. It takes work. It's kind of part of the job. But I said, why don't we just give you like a home base or a central base, right? So you came over here, used my like makeshift garage studio. You were able to bang out maybe a dozen podcasts that day. I think half of them, actually it was over like a 3-day window, but I think one of the days you were able to record like 4 or 5 of them. You were able to put them on your YouTube channel. I actually saw some of them pop up on your YouTube channel last couple months, and then some of the shows you've been doing recently. And that's a newer thing over the last 4 to 6 months for you and the Green Industry Podcast. So what's up with them being recorded now on video and people can watch the live interview replay? Is that right?
Yeah, so we got a YouTube channel, Green Industry Podcast with Paul Jameson, and we put the actual video form of the podcast. Joe Rogan makes it look so easy, man. But he'll do like
absolutely.
He'll have his like 3-hour interview, and it's got like 2 million views after 30 minutes, like Elon Musk or whatever. It's like it's just a couple of dudes sitting there talking. It's got all these views, and then he does what's called JRE, Joe Rogan clips, and then he'll play like if there's like an 8-minute really good point on a subtopic, he'll have separate videos like that. So I'm kind of trying to do what he's doing and just put the whole episode out there and then do some clips on Instagram at Green Industry Podcast. Like Together in the Trades, we had some really funny clips like Lamont Hairston. And there's just some really like epic moments. Alicia and AJ Brenzel. And the guys just said really good stuff. So we just took a little clip of that, put it on Instagram. So I am trying to get better with the video and adding that element to the podcast as well. So,
Amen.
Yeah, we got that channel over there.
So Green Industry Podcast on YouTube, and then some of the vlogs from the tour. You have a second channel, right? Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's Paul Jameson Landscaping, and that's where I put more like videos and things of that nature. So
okay. So
yeah, I got 2 channels right now.
People can follow along there. I love it. Well, one last thing I was going to say is the inspiration for you for the podcast, and similar to myself, is to help these guys not make the same mistakes that we made for a decade, right? Or for the wins we did have, share the wins, and hopefully people can profit from those as well. Where's your passion right now for the podcast? Where do you see it going? And outside of the next 2-3 weeks, you're going to be on the road. We just got that debrief, but where's the podcast going over the next 3 to 6 months? I mean, the downloads are increasing every day. We see this like ranking website. You guys always share it with me, and Paul shares it with me. Your show's top 100 pretty consistently, and sometimes even 50s and 60s and 70s, which is just incredible. Very impressive stuff. Honestly, very, very impressive. So what's the show doing today, and where's the show going tomorrow?
Yeah, well, I think the goal is that I want my ceiling to be other people's floor. What I mean by that is I've reached a place where, I've developed a certain amount of relational intelligence. I've learned some things about billing and pricing and things of that nature. It took me 10 plus years to learn, but I learned it the hard way. And so if guys can tune in that are maybe transitioning into lawn care, landscaping, and a lot of these principles, they transcend just the service-based, home-based businesses. I mean, they're just business in general, the advice. But my point is, guys can actually start year 1 and 2, and it doesn't have to take them a 10-year learning curve. They can tune in, and actually their starting point can be my ceiling, and then it's just like a launching board, and then it's like year 5, and they're like, our buddy Roger Villabo down in San Antonio.
Yeah,
he was Costco a couple of years ago, and now he's DM'd me the other day. It's like, yeah, I did 35,000 revenue last month, 42. I'm like, what, bro? And it's just like it's a launching pad. So that's kind of where the show's at right now, because the guests that we bring on, like yourself and, Mitchell Gordy and Naylor Taliaferro and Tony Rudolph, and these guys all have their own mistakes they've made, and they all have their own stories to tell. And so I just try to be kind of like Larry King. He was one of my broadcasting heroes, and just ask the questions and let them share their stories. And so where I see this thing going 3 to 6 months from now, I'm going to try to get better and better interviews with I'm going to always do interviews with, the guys that are part-timers like Mitchell. He works 1 day or 2 days a week, and, Tony that goes solo. I'm going to continuously to do those, but I also want to hear from the top executives at these top companies and really try to attract some of those interviews. I mean, I mentioned earlier going to Fenway Park, going to Augusta National Golf Club. Just last week I was at Site One here in Atlanta. I didn't even realize they're in Atlanta. Headquarters is right, like real close to my house. And so I was down in their warehouse, and a guy flew down. Okay, Brian, this freaked me out. This guy flies down from Charlotte. I was like, well, what are you doing? What are you doing in Atlanta? And he's looking at me. He's like, I came down to be on your podcast. I said, let me get this straight. You came from Charlotte, North Carolina to Atlanta, Georgia to be on the Green Industry podcast? I mean, this guy's wearing a real fancy blue shirt. He's an executive at Site One, right? He's like, yeah, they told me I'm going to be on the Green Industry podcast, and it's in Atlanta. And so I was like, it just blew my mind. I was like, this is cool. And so I want to capture more interviews like that, because these guys just bring a bunch of knowledge and best practices. And so I guess as a host, and Mr. Producer pushes my butt so hard. I don't know your relationship with him, if he still kind of takes it easy on you, if he just shoots you straight. But he'll just share with me, like he I think he wants to see the show reach its full potential, and so he just corrects me, I guess is the best way to say it, and gives me pointers and stuff like that. So I want to provide a podcast that's the morning show that guys could tune into and be better off for it. After listening, be motivated, inspired, educated, and at the end of the day, have a more successful business. So that's the goal, bro.
Amen. I think that's super noble. I think you are totally materializing that. I mean, like I said earlier, I listen to the show every morning, and every guest that you have on, or the solo episodes that you do, I hear some people listen to our show and or your show, and over time, they do kind of blend together, right? The topics do seem very similar. But I heard somebody say once, this is about, 2-3 months ago, they said, I still listen to every episode, even though I'm 200 episodes in on your show and 400 episodes in on Paul, because I always get something. They said, I always get something. I have a rule. If I start the podcast, I finish the podcast, because you never know when you're going to get one tip, one nugget, one gold nugget that you can take away, right? And we're always dialing it in. And that's where leaders, we're never satisfied, right? We're always trying to grow, sharpen the sword, if you will, sharpen our mind. And I see you living that out. I mean, by the way, Mr. Producer is the producer that does the voiceover work for so many of you guys. You can follow him on Instagram at Mr. Producer USA. He does our show and a couple other folks' shows, including Paul's. Mr. Producer is incredible. I mean, he's a great dude outside of just being a great audio, video guy and the, producer space, whatever you want to call it. Like, outside of his career accolades, he's just a stout, great person, and somebody that I haven't met in person, but I've been able to have a couple phone conversations with. I super value his time. I put him on the pedestal of, a couple $100 an hour type of mentorship. And so when he calls or texts me, I get back with him, because I really do respect his time, not only his talent and his skill set with producing shows, but just as a human being. He's very successful in his career, and then also, takes care of, Tim Schmoyer with video creators on YouTube. I actually was able to kind of broker that connection, because I take some coaching from Tim a couple times, and Tim and I have become buds behind the scenes. He helps people coach people with YouTube channels, and he really helped me grow my YouTube channel a lot the last couple of years. And Tim's like $600 an hour, so when that guy talks, you listen. And Tim's like, "Hey, I listened to your podcast. Who's your producer? That guy is awesome." He goes, my producer sucks. And I said, whole long story. We were talking about that. And I said, you should try Mr. Producer. And so they did a little trial run. And from what I understand, they're still rocking and rolling maybe 6 months later. So how cool is that? But I'm like, man, I can help Tim Schmoyer. Tim Schmoyer helps me, and I can help somebody at that level. I mean, that guy's, coached, hundreds of thousands of people to, 100,000 sub or greater YouTube channels. I mean, it's incredible. So,
17+ billion views. I listen to Tim Schmoyer. I'm an avid video creators podcast.
Yeah.
And real quick, to add to Mr. Producer's accolades, he's been in this industry of sound engineer, broadcasting for 40 years. And so I just think it's really cool. I hope guys don't take for granted, because if you do listen to other podcasts, a lot, not in our space, but a lot of podcasts are just raggedy. Like the audio's not that good. It's awkward. And we're blessed that we actually have someone who's a legit professional who puts so much tender care into your podcast, mine, Caleb Allman, Nailers. It's really cool because you can actually binge listen to 4 or 5 new episodes a day, and they all sound good. So it's really cool.
And he is a real person. We have covered this on my show. I knew we'd get there eventually. It always goes full circle. But the story that I've told on my show, even recently, and then I was busting your chops a year ago. And if you guys listen in, you guys are part of the family. You guys know this whole banter and the whole story. And Paul and I, we pitch and catch on each other's podcast. Paul's like, yeah, I was listening to Fullerton the other day, and blah blah blah. And I swear to God, true story. It wasn't like talking junk, but I'm like, I don't think Paul's got an actual producer. I think he just I think he's talking to the wall, or he just leaves some dead space for some random friend of his to talk back, later, and they put that. I don't know. And I swear to God. So one day you were in my garage for the summer tour where you came over for 2-3 days. We hosted you here, and you were on the phone, and I was like, I'm like, who was that? And you're like, what's Mr. Producer? And I said, damn, you're really taking this shtick, like full commit, all the way. I said, Paul, I get it, bro, but we're friends. You don't got to put the shtick on in front of me. You know what I mean? And you're like, dude, seriously, here, take the phone. And I'm like, hello? And he's like, yeah, I can't do, Mr. Producer's voice, but he's like, hello, this is Marty. And I'm like, oh my God, it actually sounds like him, and I was like, well, hello, I'm Brian. And he goes, well, hello, I'm Brian, and he's making fun of me. And so any which way, we actually caught up about the next day and had about a 2-hour powwow about what's going on with my show and how it's a dumpster fire and just having fun. But he's like, hey, I can help you out. I can bring the fire hose. We'll fix this, fix this thing up, clean it up. Cause it takes, for every episode you guys hear, and not that you guys overly care, but sometimes you just want to know the insider scoop. I'm always that nosy guy. To bring an hour episode of the podcast, you usually have 2 or 3 hours that goes into it with recording and production. So when Paul's dropping 5 shows a week and he says it's a full-time job working 30-40 hours, and that doesn't count working with sponsors, trying to sell brand deals. I mean, you got to pay the bills. It's a crazy little business to run a successful podcast. And so it's a 40-hour week job. And so Mr. Producer just saves our tail. He does a lot of that. He's a 10 in what he does. I don't pretend to be, producing the show. So I let him handle that. And I know you do as well, Paul. But again, just to go full circle, super grateful for Mr. Producer, who is, in fact, a real guy. But any which way. Too funny right there. So, Paul, when do you get started on the show or on the road? Is it you start this week, basically? So when people are listening to this episode, your first episode should be dropping shortly thereafter?
Yeah, and you guys can definitely follow along on Instagram at Green Industry Podcast. I'm going to be kind of doing behind the scenes. At each stop, I'll be intentionally trying to post as much as possible. And then the audio, it will probably go on for about a month, because what's happening is Naylor's yeah, I'll invite some friends over, and he's I got 9 confirmed coming so far. And so we're just going to have a grand old time, and you guys can listen. Green Industry Podcast, the summer road tour, we'll have those cranked out basically the rest of July and then going on into August. So we'll make as many of those episodes as we can.
That's awesome. And by the way, if you guys are listening real time, we just got done with about 2-3 weeks ago the Together in the Trades conference down in Waco, Texas, and Paul came there with the Green Industry Podcast, and also Andrew, which is one of Paul's team members that helps bring the show to you guys as well, Monday through Friday on their show. And so Paul and Andrew were able to do how many podcast episodes did you guys officially do?
We did 16 episodes, and
wow.
They were great because the energy and the excitement, and guys were just, I love going to events. And so, yeah, we had 16 episodes, and they were all really good. So those are actually continuing. I still have Savannah Spencer, Logan Manning will come out this week, and then right after that, we'll start the summer tour. Actually, I squeezed Dr. Frank in there too.
Hey.
Dr. Frank came over, we sat on the back porch, and he gave me advice on how to pick up chicks. So.
Well, I don't know if that was inspired after our episode from Friday or how that worked.
I was. You guys, that was great. You would. You guys, if you missed that episode, man, I mean, I legitimately laughed so many times because you would. If you're going to start it, you got to finish it. I mean, as a single man, I'm trying to keep myself pure for marriage, but I was getting excited listening to that.
Well, we're again with our slogan, our buzz is right. Lawns, lessons, life, and so
that was life.
That was some life tips. I'm trying to help my lawn bros and
how you create life.
Yeah. Well, or not. So you can take it both ways, right? But we love bringing you guys the shows. We love bringing the live episodes with you as well. My dream one day is to of course do video podcasting as well and have a studio eventually. Whether it's in the house that we build or in the pole barn, we want to build a studio room and bring video podcasts to you guys, sort of like what Paul's doing, and have the multi-cam set up. But to do it right, it's going to be $20,000-$25,000 with videos and cameras and having somebody, believe it or not, on staff and payroll to chop it up and edit and. So if you guys appreciate that stuff and consume it, we'll create more of it. We just want to help you guys grow a more successful business. There's no ulterior motive behind my podcast or Paul's podcast. They're for-profit businesses, just like anything else that we all run in life. But at the end of the day, the real MO is to help you guys just save some heartache, just save some pain. My first 11 years in business is pretty well documented that it wasn't the best. It wasn't the most illustrious. Paul had a great company out in Atlanta. He had a decade under his belt. Sold most of it, kind of gave some of it away. He moved. He's starting another business, but he's teaching what he learned for a decade, working with some of the most successful athletes in the greater Metro Atlanta area. And so he's got all the credibility in the world. He wrote a best-selling book. What is it called? Cut That Grass and
Make That Cash.
We're trying to make sure that we read it at the same level or rate that you did for the audiobook, which was, by the way, pro tip, if you listen to it at 1 1/4 speed, it sounds like a normal 1x read. You know what I'm saying? So Paul's trying to milk that algorithm over there, making that book 4 hours instead of 3. So Paul's like, yeah, Paul was like, I get an extra 50 cents if it's 4 hours long. So it comes in at 4 hours and 1 minute. You know what I mean? He actually he pitched and catch, right? So he volleyed the ball to me when we were doing a live episode, part of this hype house we did in Florida. So he wraps up with this awkward. He does this body language. If you guys know Paul, and some of you already know what I'm about to say, like it's just funny because Paul does this like he leans over to you and like waves his hand like you're supposed to talk, but if you're not ready for it, you don't know. So we're on this balcony looking at this beautiful harbor. We just did an episode and we're wrapping up, and Paul goes, "All right, well that's it. Let's cut that grass." And then what you don't want in radio is radio silence, right, Paul? You don't want the mic dead.
Air.
You don't want dead air. So after 2 seconds, I look at him and I realize that's my cue, and I go, "And make that cash." And he goes, "Oh my God, Fullerton." And I said, "Hey man, I'm just trying to repeat back your audiobook at 1.5 speed, or half speed." So anyway. If you guys are listening, we're butts. We just love having fun. And Paul, we appreciate you more than you know, and just having some fun here, guys. But any which way, we super respect you. You got a great show going on. Our podcasts are always, for the most part in the top 100, and the numbers change every day based on, who dropped an episode or had a good guest, or, I mean, frankly, they're always good guests, but which are a lot of you guys listening in. So any which way, hey, I know that you got the summer tour coming up this next couple of weeks, which will be great. The Together in the Trades Conference live podcasts, those 16 episodes, we're just dropping. So if you guys haven't listened to the Green Industry Podcast, listen to those, and then go all the way back to episode 1 and start from there. He's got 400 episodes. I know, within probably 3 or 4 months, we'll have November 13th, Launchpreneur Academy Live. That's our big live event. We'll be doing that again. I'm hoping Paul's able to come on up here, maybe bring Andrew, and then we'll have, I'm sure the podcast boards all set up for 2.5, 3 days, and those guys can, bang out another dozen or two podcasts. And so we're just keeping the momentum going. And hey, what do they always say, Paul? Rising water raises all boats, or something like that.
When the water goes up, the boat goes up. at your conference, I don't want to be in that janitor spot though. Again, did you like it Together in the Trades? How we had your banner behind us?
Yeah, that was cool. That was cool.
So I'm thinking at Launchpreneur Academy, we could set up like out front of that thing, kind of off in the distance, and have that behind us.
Yeah.
And podcast the same way we did Together in the Trades at Launchpreneur Academy, and have that as the backdrop. I thought that was really cool, and a little free marketing there for Launchpreneur Academy and all the other sponsors.
I like that. Well, we'll have to set up a nice little booth there, and then some of you guys that come on up here for our live event, you guys can sneak off maybe during one of the speakers or at lunch and connect with Paul and Andrew, and we'll set that all up, and we'll make sure that we don't put Paul in the broom closet. It was the only room left. I think it was an unofficial like bridal room changing for ladies that are like having a wedding. It's like a private room, but at the end of the day, we had 350 people come, 300 people come, and that was like the only room left. And so we'll make sure to get you a beautiful room with maybe like a beautiful view, and then we'll also get a couple cases of Essentia water. Make sure we take care of you, host you correctly, that kind of a deal. So any which way, got to treat Paul like a VIP. Amen. So, all right. Well, hey, we'll button it up right here. Paul, where can they find you just one more time, and then we'll button it up?
Green Industry Podcast. We're on all major podcast platforms at Green Industry Podcast on Instagram and YouTube as well.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, and where can they find your book if they want to purchase the paperback or the audiobook?
Yeah, that's on Amazon. I'd recommend the audiobook because my emotion when I'm telling the stories, like I remember the story and I'm like getting all animated and emotional, and I think the audio book is a better experience, but they're both on Amazon. And actually the books where finer books are sold, it's in Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, you can get it anywhere, but Amazon is just the simplest way. So I'm telling you that because when you write your book, maybe one day, who knows, we'll see. Write a book for it. I figured out how to get it on all the stores. So
yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Well, and also, if you guys haven't listened to it, use Paul's link, probably in his show notes on his podcast. But you can, and this is how I did it about 3 years ago. I signed up with somebody's referral link for Audible, and if you do that, you usually get, if not one, sometimes 2 books free.
Credits,
yeah, they're called like a credit. So if you have the Audible app, if you go through Paul and use his link, I think he makes like, a $5 kickback, whatever, which is good. I mean, I'd rather give that to somebody. But if you use his link, you literally get 2 free credits. And sometimes some of these books are like $24.99. Some of the books are, $9.99, $14.99. But, there's some classics out there that like Rich Dad Poor Dad, they're like still $25 for some reason. So if you want to have a $30 to $50 value, go sign up through his link and get 2 free credits. And I think an Audible membership is $14.95 a month, and I have like 7 credits in mine that I just waiting to download some good books, and so I just try to cycle through something once a month. But any which way, that's what I got for you guys today. Paul, super appreciate you, man, and safe travels on the road tour. And shout out to all those guys. Tell them that we said hey, and we give them our best. And we're looking forward to those podcast episodes, brother.
All right. Well, looking forward to baby Fullerton.
That's coming here soon. Amen. End of the month of July, and hey, you're planning your summer road tour, and I'm planning a baby nursery. So it's man, there's a lot going on behind the scenes for both of us.
You invited me. You say, "Come on up in the garage podcast." I was like, "Bro, you having your baby, man." I ain't intruding on that because Liz is gonna have the baby, and I'm gonna be there. It's gonna be super awkward. I was like, I ain't even taking a chance.
Oh, that is true. I said if you want to come up here, because I didn't know you had another summer tour planned, but I said, hey, because we did this same time last year. I said, hey, if you want to come up, this was about 3 weeks ago. I said, if you come up, it has to be the second week of July. After that, Mama Bear is gonna rip both of our heads off. I said, this is the last chance, and you said, no, dude, my mom works in nursing, and we've delivered babies and all this other stuff. Trust me, you don't want to be up. I don't want to be up there and messing with any of you guys' mojo, and it would have been fine, but at the same point, we totally get it. And you already had plans, which worked out just fine. But we'll hopefully see you up here in November, and then
Launchpreneur Academy, you got it.
Hey man, we'll have a little baby you could hold on to, Paul, and we can give you some little birth control there with the baby, because that'll make you want to hold out for another couple of years. Amen. So any which way. All right, guys. Well, hey, this is this episode of Fullerton Unfiltered and the Green Industry Podcast. Paul Jameson, super appreciate him joining with us. If you guys are looking down at your show, you're about to click to the next track or switch it to a different podcast. Hey, would you do one quick favor? Scroll all the way down where it says more episodes and leave a 5-star rating and review. We really appreciate it. It literally takes 30 seconds. Also, if you haven't done it for Paul's show, he's not going to beg you to do it. But if you want to do us a solid and just help the shows and help that social proofing, and that what it does is it helps the algorithm promote it to other folks who are stumbling upon iTunes, and it knows that they're lawn bros. Like one way, shape, or another, it's got all their ad data from all the websites we all visit, right? And it knows to promote that show to those guys. Well, if there's 500 reviews or 1,000 reviews and somebody stumbles upon that and it says, great show, great listen, tons of nuggets, then they're more likely to click in and they can join in the ecosystem, get to meet us, get to meet you guys, and just hopefully help them make some more money, just like maybe some of you guys stumbled onto the show. So that's all we ask, and we super appreciate it. And or maybe tag us on Instagram, share the podcast, maybe a screenshot, and let us know how we're doing. So, all right, well, guys, that's what we got today. We'll kick it back over to Marty, Mr. Producer, down in the ATL. And, guys, we look forward to catching up with you here on the next one.
Ballard Innovative Products is a full line of gear for the lawn and landscape professional. From mower gear, safety gear, trailer racks, equipment securement, equipment servicing tools, aerators, mower blades, X-blades, aluminum baggers, and much more to make you efficient, effective, safe, and profitable in the field. Check out Ballard-Inc.com to help dominate and elevate your business. Ballard Innovative Products. With over 20 years of selling accessories and 30 years in the business, we're sure that we've got something you can't live without. We appreciate the support and look forward to serving you this season. Stay safe and keep grinding, friends. And don't forget to use Brian's 10 to save 10% at Ballard-Inc.com.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.
This has been a Brian Fullerton and Mr. Producer production.